you. You're tuned in to the Skirts Up Show with Samantha and Melissa.
Join our mission to normalize failure, but still uncover the positives at every twist and turn.
Skirts up, but keep your panties on.
What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It's your girl, Melissa. Sam, unfortunately, is not recording the introduction with me today, but she is happy and well. She's just busy. She's got a lot of kids tonight. She's doing some babysitting. But that being said, we both are coming back from pretty busy weeks, actually. She went to Nashville over the weekend and had some adventures there that I will let her fill you in on later. But I actually got to go to Chicago, and I got to it's called H&H. It's a big, huge convention for crafters and any kind of like brick and mortar of like quilt shop, yarn shop, anything like that. So I had a week of tons and tons of learning. It was awesome. But yeah, I'm back in town and I'm about to jump into another event here at the shop. So things have been kind of crazy and busy, but I just wanted to tell you guys that we are here. We are doing well. And we have a really cool episode for you today. It's with Ashley Melillo. She is a rapid transitional therapist. She's actually a lot of things. She's a psychologist. She's written a cookbook. So we had a really good conversation with her, and it was actually something that, and this is again not mine to tell, but I think Sam has told you guys a little bit already, that it actually really inspired her. So Sam is on her own RTT journey right now, and maybe she'll tell us more about it next week. But because of Mental Health Month, we are just wanted to keep on going and give you guys more tools for yourselves, because things get hard sometimes. So welcome, Ashley, and we can't wait for this episode. Can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. And here we go.
I'm really excited to introduce our guest that we have with us today, Ashley Melillo. I said it right that time?
Yes.
She's a psychologist that turned into a food blogger and author of her own cookbook called Blissful Basil, which led into her passion for the spiritual truth-seeking. And now she's currently working on obtaining her license for rapid transformational therapy, and also hosts her own podcast called The Soul Horizon. Welcome. Did I say all that?
Yes, you captured it all. You did a great job.
Yes. Well, introduce yourself and tell us about you. It's so much.
It is a lot. I feel like you did a great job, though. I almost want to take your notes so I can use that when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, it's complicated. I think the easiest way to talk about it, though, is I've always just followed my heart when it comes to work. And I've always had a passion and interest in self-reflection, psychology, dabbling in spirituality early in life. And then also, I feel like food somehow is woven into that. I think the thing that ties all of them together is really the medium of writing and speaking too. So I was a psychologist at a high school on the North Shore of Chicago for several years. And I had started a food blog while I was in graduate school called Blissful Basil, the same as my cookbook. And as that evolved, it kind of got to a point where it was like 2014, where it was picking up pace on its own, even though I was really inconsistent with it. I had started it in 2010. And I was sort of like, oh gosh, I either need to dive into this and commit to it more consistently, or maybe just shut it down so people aren't confused. And I chose to dive in. And so I started posting like 3 times a week. And it was really this passion and creative outlet for me to sort of balance the stress of the job as a psychologist. And it was just this really, I don't know, it sort of took on a life of its own. And I followed that, and it led into this, it was a literary agent who happened to be using my recipes, and she approached me about writing a book. And so that was sort of unusual because for a lot of people, you sort of pitch yourself to an agent. And I was lucky to have one following me. And she was wonderful. And yeah, and so she helped me with that process. I wrote and published a cookbook, and then I left my role as a psychologist. So it came out the end of 2016. It was a 2-year process. So I signed the deal, I believe it was very late, or it was very early 2015. So I wrote for 2 years, and then I was in the editing stage. It's a very, there's so many different layers to it. And then it came out, and I really focused on that. And then I had my girls, and so I have two girls, Sloan and Winter. They're 7 and 4, and focused on motherhood for a while, and then decided to sort of wind down the food blog and then pivot back into the world of psychology with a heavy dose of spirituality and consciousness mixed in. And I teeter into like the quantum world too, so quantum mechanics and quantum physics, and really try and make some of these esoteric principles more practical and action-oriented too. So weaving psychology into these like looser and more intangible concepts so that it grounds it. So this idea of it's sort of like, I always say it's like rooted and reaching. This idea of like pulling down from the kind of like from the ethers or the stars into the real world so that you can actually, my hope is to make it, I've worked to make it easier for myself by doing this, but it's taken so much research that I'm like, maybe I can save some people some time by sharing this.
Oh,
So
that's so sweet.
So you're researching stuff in the quantum world is what you're basically saying, and like the quantum physics?
That's
like,
part
realm?
of what I do. It's not all of it, but that's my fascination is really about looking for the true nature of reality and seeing beyond what we see with the 5 human senses.
Okay.
And so that's woven
Right.
into a lot of the principles. I think I'm a very analytical thinker, but I'm a hopeless optimist too, or maybe a hopeful optimist in that I love all of the like more esoteric stuff. So I think because of those interests, I realize that people's minds think differently, right? Some people need more evidence that's tangible and more like based in this world of materialism. And some people are just going to be okay with very little evidence. And so I try and kind of put those together in a way that it maybe closes a gap that wouldn't otherwise be closed, I guess, or bridges the gap, really. Yeah.
And that's definitely how I am. This has all been mind-blowing because it is so much that you just can't fully grasp. And I need something that I can have a solid, like, this is what it is and this is why and how. And I'm just not getting that the more I learn about this. And so it just continues to fascinate and give me more questions than answers. So I'm constantly seeking to see what there is to learn.
Absolutely. I feel the same way too. It's like the more I learn, the less I feel I know, but in a good way. I think when we think we know everything there is to know, we're in a very closed-minded and closed-hearted place. And so I think that's the beauty of it too, is like the evolution of learning is this recognition that there's so much that I don't know, and how exciting is that? Like there's always more to be curious about. And that's really been my driver has always been curiosity. So in following that pull and that nudge in the way that curiosity flows, and sometimes it goes in really random places and you're sort of like, what does this have to do with anything? Like that spiritual awakening article that you had said you found. But yeah,
this is how I found Ashley from an article that she wrote, I mean, like several years ago.
Yes.
Like it was a while ago. And somehow I stumbled across about how do you know it's that you're in a spiritual awakening and like these are the steps that you'll feel. And I was like, oh my God, I need to message her. Like I'm feeling all of this. And this is weird that she was able to write everything that I'm feeling and thinking. And here she is.
That's a response. I think I was telling you that so many people have reached out in email and comments with a similar response. And it has shocked me because I thought this could just go, maybe people are going to be like, what in the world is she talking about? Because it could make absolutely no sense. But instead, it's resonated in this really deep way. But from that, it's like, if you look at all of that together, it seems so random that all of these things would link together. But I think that's what awakening is
Yeah.
about, is realizing just how interconnected everything is and how
Mhm.
interconnected we all are as well. So
That comes up in like every episode that we do.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
it gives me chills because, yeah, it's like everything that we do can affect anyone and everyone, people we don't know, I think. And
Mhm.
it's just kind of amazing how interconnected this world is. But I wanted to ask you, so for the quantum theories, you're talking about like, okay, taking some esoteric ideas and giving like root to them for people who have more of like a need to know uh, how I guess like I don't know, like they need to see things to believe them is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
How does that work with psychology though? Like what tell me how
So
that got linked.
how does the that's more of like that consciousness aspect. And like, I
Yes.
love Carl Jung in terms of like
Yes.
psychology. He, the unconscious and also the collective unconscious. And so how are these things linked, right? Like, we have we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind ourselves. And yet psychologists like Carl Jung have linked those principles of individuality to the greater collective as well. And
Right.
so, like, how is that possible? And how the quantum side of things, so quantum physics, starts to help explain that. And there's so much that we don't know. And yet, if we think of this world as all being connected, we're 99.99999% energy, or empty space, essentially. If we think of ourselves as sort of existing not as separate entities, but as like these individuated
Mhm.
aspects of a collective field, then it starts to make sense how we can, well, so much makes sense. Like, for instance, psi phenomena like telepathy and clairvoyance and all of these different things.
Mhm.
But this idea that there's sort of this quantum soup that we're existing within, and how there's that interconnected nature to everything we experience. And so in some episodes and some articles I read, I get far more into very practical psychology. But there is this greater I'd say consciousness is really the link between the world of psychology and spirituality for me. It's bringing those ideas together and offering insights. And I always say I write in pencil because our perspective is always evolving and changing.
I
And
like that.
yeah, and so I'm never like, okay, I figured it out finally. It's sort of like, okay, I think I have a new piece of the puzzle. Could it fit in here?
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That's awesome. It's kind of like the whole thing like Sam and I talk about sometimes uh, it's okay to not know everything. Like you had just said that. But sometimes it's like you like, I want to know the answer, but sometimes you have to just say, I don't know. And we don't know, but we can keep trying to find out more pieces.
it's so true. I think we find the answers at just the right time for us. Because that, like,
Mhm.
even though we might consciously want them like way earlier, there are
Yeah.
things that I've sort of put out, like, oh, I would really like to understand this more. And it's almost like we just, I don't know. I always, the more it's like hindsight's 2020, right? And whenever I reflect on things like
Sure.
that, I realize, oh, I knew at just the right time because, this was going on, or I wouldn't have understood it without this perspective. But it can be that, like,
Mhm.
there can be a frustration to it too. Like, we want to grow faster than I think our higher self or slow is like, our higher self or soul is sort of like, no, no, no. Like, there's a pace to this,
It's
a
not your
cadence
time.
that's best for you and safest for you too,
Oh,
So,
that's something I
So
never thought about.
really.
do you
Yeah, the safest
remember
for you.
a
Mhm.
exact moment or an exact instance where you were like, "Whoa, there's something to actually look into?" Like, so you're cooking, you just left psychology, and like, was there a specific moment or a specific person where you're like, "Whoa, I need to keep learning about this?"
I think yes, it was 2000. Well, I mean, it happened in chunks, right? So I'd say the first one I was always into spirituality, but I didn't start to like sort of peer behind or beyond the veil per se until I'd say early
Mhm.
2017 it was, when I watched the OA. Have you heard of that? Have you watched that show on Netflix?
Oh,
No, I
no,
don't think so.
I started it and I didn't finish it, but
Yeah. She talks about
I felt like I had to really like focus on it, and I was trying to watch it while I was working, but you can't. That one you have to pay attention.
That's so true. It weaves in. It talks a lot about near-death experiences and sort of these
Okay.
parallel dimensions. And so I started really going down a rabbit hole there. And it was within like a few weeks of finishing that series that I had what I would identify as a transcendental experience, not provoked by anything, like no substances, anything like that. Not that I have anything against it. That's never been the way that I've experienced these things. But I had a moment or not even a moment, it was several hours long, where I don't really understand what triggered it, but I guess I was just open to it. And I sensed the world around me as one, essentially. As like I was just lying on my floor staring at the ceiling fan and thinking, I am that fan and that fan is me, which makes no sense. I mean, saying it out loud now, I'm like, it sounds so bizarre. And yet in the moment, it was profoundly transformative. And it was like this very elevated sense of perspective of all is well because it is, and it's so hard to explain. And I've had several of these moments since, especially in the last year, about a year ago, I went through a series of moments like this. But that really sort of blew my eyes open. And then, of course, it slips away and you go back into your sort of normal state of consciousness and you're trying to get back to it. And yet it seems like the harder we try to get to those places, the more difficult or elusive they become. So it's one of those things you just have to allow. It's like an allowing rather than a trying, or forcing. But that really sort of blew my eyes or started to awaken my eyes to something greater. And then in 2019, I continued to research and do all of this sort of deep dive work on spirituality and consciousness. But then in 2019, I was watching YouTube and it was these two guys. I don't even know if they're around anymore. It was a show called, I think it was like Edge of Wonder. But they were talking about something and it was like a little bit into like conspiracy theory territory per se. But it was like, think about like, I don't know, like extraterrestrials or something, but it started to link for me all of these different like disparate things that I had been interested in. And so then I started kind of researching separately on some things and it was just fascinating to me. I was like, oh my gosh, so like this consciousness and all this work is tied to this somehow. And it was, sometimes someone can just say something at the right time, even though it's not that explicit, but it just hits you in the right way where it kind of blows open your eyes to everything that you've learned before and how it all is woven together. And that's really what it felt like that happened for me in that moment. So I think it was more of like a right time, right sentence. And I don't even remember what it was per se, but it was like one thing. And it was a fleeting experience with watching that show. But it was, I don't know, it was profound in the way that it connected things for me.
That makes sense. We've had a guest on, and that was really something that she had said. I think, like the first time my mind was just really blown is when we had Kelly Palmatier on, and she's a psychic medium, and she was talking about, she made a comment about how she prays and is thankful, like when she opens up the realm of for reading. And I was like, well, how can you pray to someone if you're not praying to someone? Or, like it just didn't make sense to me, like how you can pray if it's not to God. And it just, one of those things that's just very strict for me. And she goes, well, it's okay to believe in everything and nothing at all. And so I'm not praying to God. I'm praying to the universe, and I'm praying to spirit, and I'm praying to God, and I'm praying to just all the universe, everything. And I was like, whoa, that makes sense. And I don't even know why it makes sense, because it doesn't. But I've always grasped onto that sentence that she said to us, and that's been my driving force since.
That's fascinating, because that to me actually that touches upon that connection to quantum physics and to the world of spirituality more so, but the idea of like the zero point field, because it's this idea of there is nothing, or there's everything held within nothing at all. And so there's a lot of
Yeah.
these sort of counterintuitive experiences that happen in terms of psychological truths and also in terms of spiritual truths. And the simplicity of it all is complicated to the mind because the mind wants to complicate everything. And so it looks at these simple
Hmm.
principles and is like, it couldn't possibly be that easy or that simple or basic, but yet it
Yeah.
is. And I feel like the more you get into it, the more deeper those simple meanings become. I feel like that's a very esoteric
Mhm.
explanation, but hopefully it makes sense.
No, it's Occam's razor, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. It's so true.
That is really interesting. So are you back in school? Like, are you studying on your own? How are you learning all these things?
I am. So I study on my own for my research for the podcast, but then I'm also back in school to become certified in RTT, so rapid transformational therapy. And I'm halfway through the program. So just as like a, disclaimer that I'm not fully certified in it yet, but I am quite far into the program. And
Yeah.
so that really blends hypnotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and neuro linguistic programming into one.
Oh.
It's this system, and it's by a woman. The founder is a woman named Marissa Peer, and she lives in the
Hmm.
UK. And she's been practicing this for, I believe, over 30 years. And the whole logic behind it really is that basically it taps into the subconscious mind through the access point of hypnotherapy, so moving into an alpha brainwave state. And there's a sort of rapid way to induce that as well, with the eyes looking up, and it induces REM quite quickly. And then you go in and you regress. Well, that sounds strange, but you take people back, so in this form of hypnotic regression, to 3 different scenes typically. Sometimes it can be more based on that tie into their presenting problem. So if someone comes to you with anxiety, you would ask the subconscious mind, because there is this trust that the subconscious mind is absolutely brilliant, and what it does is it carries out its programming. So although we can't consciously go in and change the subconscious mind, at least not very easily. So using hypnosis is really this door that opens to the subconscious mind. And from there, you can go in and really begin to work with not only bringing up these memories that are linked to whatever the client's presenting problem is, but also reworking those memories in a way that fosters the sense of empowerment for the client and allows them to
Right.
rewrite, not in a way that they're writing over the memory, but shifting the perspective. Because often these memories are from childhood, and the mind of a child looks at the world very differently than the mind of an adult. So it's almost like
Hmm.
going in and sort of re-guiding, like reparenting the child in a way. And then
Yeah.
there's this neuro-linguistic component at the end where there are essentially affirmations, but it's all based on what was learned in those scenes and really supporting the desire of the client going forward. Because one of the first questions
Hmm.
you ask is like, if you could wave a magic wand and get exactly what you want out of the session, what would you want? So when you paint that picture for them in very vivid detail, and they then continue to listen to that for at least 21 days afterwards. So
Oh, interesting.
That is
Because
so
I was not
fascinating.
understanding what neurolinguistic what that even meant, but it's
Yeah.
literally just like helping rewire neural pathways with the like lingual, like speaking your affirmations.
yes. So they're listening to the track in which you or the facilitator is speaking these things. And so let's say, the presenting issue was public speaking and a fear of public speaking. And so you would ask the client, because you really want to get like, what is your goal or desire out of this work that we do together? And you have them paint this very clear picture. I want to get up on stage and feel incredibly confident. I want to feel poised. I want to have this unshakable sense of confidence when I'm speaking to a crowd. And even like, okay, what would you be wearing? You want them to paint it in this vivid detail so that they can really picture it. So you'll say this to them in the affirmation. You're standing up on stage and you're so excited to be up there and you feel so confident in yourself, all of these different things, but then adding in these visual elements too, so that they can really anchor into the visual of them doing that. while they're in
Mhm.
a state of hypnosis, essentially, which is a really natural state, even though we kind of look at it as this, ooh, it's like it scares a lot of people, but it's actually something that we go into almost every single day when we're watching TV or driving a familiar route.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
makes
Yeah.
perfect
I
sense.
feel like you're literally like just always reading my brain because
Oh,
like that example is literally like what I have been telling my therapist. Like I'm in what is it that I do, Melissa? I do
Oh,
brain
shoot, brain
spotting.
spotting?
And one of the things is she's like, "Well, what is like one thing that you want?" And I was like, "Well, I want to be on a stage and I want to be like giving this positive something, but like I can't even talk to a microphone behind my screen like confidently half the time. So it's like I don't even know why I want that." And and so it just sounds like you have kind of found a way
Mhm.
where you can help overcome that and get what it is that you really want. But one thing that, okay, so the inner self, it sounds like that's your subconscious, and your subconscious is the one that tells you, like, oh, I am uncomfortable or fearful of wearing a low cut shirt. Is
Mhm.
that what I'm hearing? And
Yes.
so
Mhm.
it's the higher self that is the confident one, and it knows. Am I?
I know
These
what you're
are just
saying.
different parts that I've heard from different people, and so I'm trying to connect
Yeah.
them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I think, yeah, I understand. I know the question you're trying to ask for sure. Well, one, I just want to say I got truth chills when you talked about yourself speaking on stage. I don't know. So
Oh,
I felt the truth in it for you, for
well,
sure.
if you need someone to practice on for your studies,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so I always say like the self like little s or the self big S or ego or higher self. Those to me, it's like
mhm,
the ego essentially represents the personality, right? It's like part of it is based on our neurological wiring and our predispositions, and part of it is based on it's like nurture and nature. So there's that nurture
mhm,
component to it as well. Our experiences, potentially our traumas, all of these different things that make up who we are, especially before the age of 8, because the mind is in essentially a state of hypnosis up until the age of 8, definitely up until 6.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's in a
oh,
theta or an alpha or theta brainwave state, more into alpha
okay.
between 6 and 8, which is a lower state of hypnosis. But then we go into
Wow.
beta in terms of our normal everyday functioning after 8. So we think about
Oh.
this, yeah, and this is the reason why when you regress individuals to scenes, oftentimes these scenes that seem almost minute in terms of significance to the adult mind are incredibly impactful for the child's mind because it just goes in.
mm,
Like children really are sponges. And
Yeah, I was literally thinking that phrase.
yes. And so that personality, like the ego part, gets programmed with this information. And I always like to say too, it's like the ego is not all bad. Like we don't want to kill the ego. The ego is a necessary part of who we are. It's just that oftentimes the ego is running the show and the higher self is like trailing around, sort of like, I'm trying to nudge you and you're not listening, and it does this very lovingly. But I think the way that I've come to understand it and what I work to do every day is kind of switch the roles. So instead of the ego, because there's this negative side to the ego that's very fearful and wants to stay in its comfort
mhm,
zone, and it's full of all of this
mhm,
programming that it didn't necessarily choose, but was handed down generationally or sometimes genetically, but also from just our experiences. And so if we can sort of switch the roles and have the higher self in the driver's seat, or more so
mhm,
you can think about it as heart and mind too. I think about the heart as being the seat of the higher self and the mind as being the seat of the personality self or the
mm,
ego or the self little s.
Right.
And to switch those roles so it's more the mind is necessary in this world that we live in, and yet it drives us forward from such a logical place that it often misses these really important intuitive nudges and the path of the heart, essentially. And so, if we can lead from the
mhm.
heart and then use the mind to carry out the heart's guidance, if that makes sense. So, like when you were saying
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to me, that's a heart call. You see yourself standing on stage, that's your heart. And it's your mind that's saying, oh, that's silly. I can barely talk about, that's your mind
Yeah.
trying to keep you safe. And so where that ties into the subconscious is that the mind is composed of both the conscious mind and the subconscious mind or the unconscious. And the conscious mind is, what we're kind of consciously willing ourselves to do, but it only drives about 5% of our actions, feelings, and thoughts, whereas the subconscious
Wow.
drives 95%. So, as you can imagine,
Is that like an actual statistic or
yes.
like an actual fact? Like how?
This is why you think of the iceberg. That's like no joke. That iceberg image where it's like the core self is all
Yeah.
submerged. That's the subconscious. And so if you think about this when you're trying to change your habits, if you're using your conscious mind, right? You're like, I'm gonna get up
Mhm.
tomorrow or make, 2025 is gonna be this and
Mhm.
that and all these things. And your subconscious is like, that's not the programming that I know, because the subconscious is really like a computer program. And it's brilliant because it will carry out exactly what it's programmed with. But if it's programmed with these outmoded ways of being, especially ones that we acquired from, when we were very little, or if there are,
Yeah.
situations that occurred that were traumatic, you think about the ways that these influence our subconscious programming. And if it's filled with all of those things, it's going to very easily override those conscious intentions. And that's why people we're often hard on ourselves. We're like, gosh, I just need to have more willpower or more motivation. Not the case. It's often, and this is why I became so interested in RTT, is because as a psychologist, I was like, I'm missing, there's a tool I don't have. And this is what it is, because it's 95%. The subconscious is responsible for so much of this. And
Oh.
so, yeah, it often feels like we're running into a wall, and we tend to, because most of us don't know this information,
Mhm.
we blame ourselves for our lack of progress or for, not following through on our goals, when really our
Yeah.
subconscious mind is just doing what it thinks we want. And it's memorized that way of
Mhm.
being. So, yeah, it's really fascinating when you get into it. But yeah, it's simple and complex, right?
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
question. So I'm kind of like, I hope this isn't stupid, but maybe some of our listeners will wonder this too. I don't know. I feel like I'm confused on like, okay, there's your higher self, and then there's your conscious, your subconscious, your heart, your mind. So I'm feeling like, okay, linking all these together in a way that I can understand. Okay, your heart
Yep.
seems to be linked with your higher self.
Mhm.
Okay. And then your mind is maybe linked with your conscious level and self. What is your subconscious linking to? Like, is it part of your higher self, or is it more just like it seems like it's been created by or programmed by nature and nurture? So, what, like, I'm just
I
confused. I don't
That
understand.
makes sense. Yeah. So the heart and higher self, this is just how I think of it. They're linked. And then the
Okay.
mind or ego or the personality self is made up of both the subconscious and the conscious mind. Now, the
Okay.
thing though about the subconscious mind, you can almost think of it more as your nervous system, and almost like the conscious mind is more of the brain. Like there's
Okay.
the subconscious is also in the brain because there's these primitive responses like in the amygdala and essentially like the reptilian part of our brain that's just very animalistic
Mhm.
and instinctual and survival oriented. But the subconscious is also in the body. And so there's these memorized programs, and these kind of feed off of one another. But really, the both parts of the mind, subconscious and conscious, are essentially part of that like the self little s, if that makes sense.
Okay. It
That's
does.
how,
No, thank you.
yeah, that's a great question.
Before you started studying and wanting to get licensed in RTT, had you seeked that for yourself prior and experienced it for yourself?
I had done hypnotherapy before, but I had never done RTT. And I've sort of, you can kind of do, I mean, I've done a little bit of RTT work on myself, essentially is what I've kind of piecemealed it together. But I got really interested in the subconscious mind and delving into that and trying to understand that more. And I was like, there has to be a way to link these things together more, because hypnotherapy, yes, it's targeting the subconscious, But I
Mhm.
wanted like there's also this piece of going in or having someone facilitate this very specific or individual type of therapy in there, because a lot of hypnotherapy, it's tracks and things like that, where it's more of like and not to I'm not trying to downplay hypnotherapy whatsoever, but but it can be like less individuated or without the reference point of these previous memories, right? That are installed or that are programmed into the subconscious. So I was
Mhm.
looking for something that kind of linked that together. And when I came across RTT, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I had been doing this work on myself and doing more of these deep dives into past experiences and going into meditation and setting the intention to access these previous memories. Now, I didn't know again that RTT existed at this time, but I was like, well, that seems like what I was doing essentially without knowing I
That's
was
so
doing it.
funny.
And then I do these morning affirmations. Every morning I write out, it's probably 50 affirmations now, and I say them out loud. And I've been doing that for since the end of August, and it has made a miraculous difference in my life. And my gosh, at first, the first like 21 days, because it takes so long to change a habit, I was like, I don't want to do this. It's a waste of time. You know, the mind, that's the subconscious mind fighting you
Yeah.
because it doesn't want to
Yeah.
change. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. You're not going to like break through your limits or, like feel so
Mhm.
worthy that you're going to, do all
There's rules here.
there are exactly. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
rules and this is not them. So I don't think so. But when
Now
you
you're not writing 50 every morning. You're just repeating the 50 that
repeating,
you've collected? Okay.
But you
I
always
type them
do like
out.
50.
I do type them out. It's maybe not 50. It's maybe
Uh-huh.
like 30 to 50. It varies. I'll type them out and I
It's
change
a lot.
them.
Okay.
But I type pretty fast, but it takes me like probably 30 to 45 minutes every morning because I say them multiple times and I really close my eyes. I envision myself in like embodying these affirmations fully. So, one is that like I have an affirmation about my girls and just envisioning our dynamic and just fostering this very open and fluid connection and
Mm.
embodying all the patience I can, in those moments when you're like, I'm a single mom. And so that's like one example, but it can be on anything. Like a peaceful mind, a calm mind going to bed. I'll envision myself going to bed at night and feeling really fulfilled by everything I've done in the day, by my interactions
Ah.
with myself, with my girls. And it is really transformative and
Wow.
changed a lot for me. So,
Is
But
it
how do
the
you
same?
do that with the kids? Like, how do you make yourself have the time to do that
well,
before kids are up and kids need this and that?
I sometimes wake up at 4 a.m. So it doesn't come without sacrifice of some sort, or at least it hasn't for me. Or I wait until they're at school, and then because I found that the affirmations clear my mind enough that it makes my work go quicker. So I
Mm.
will use what used to be like the start of my workday to do this part of my morning routine because feel like I know it's that important to, it's kind of like I got the message from my higher self. If you do one thing, every day, do this. And for me, that's affirmations. And I intuitively write every morning. Have you heard of the artist's way? Is that what it is? Yeah.
No.
By Julia Cameron. It's on my desk right here. It's That's a
No.
great recommendation. Definitely. I mean,
Okay.
I just started doing it. Basically, you write 3 pages stream of consciousness every single morning, and it helps to clear these creative blocks. So I started doing that in early January, and I think I've handwritten like 120 some pages this year in
Huh.
that. But then in addition, it's like blown open my creativity for my other work as well. So anyway,
Mm.
it's kind of a side
Oh, I
tangent, but
love that.
No, that's amazing. I was really curious. So I wanted to ask about your affirmations. Are
mhm,
they changing all the time? Or is it like you said you've been doing this since November or something or August?
August, yeah.
So was it like you had like you sat down, you did some meditation and you decided, okay, these are the things I want to work on for this next period of time? Or is it like they're always evolving and always changing because as you're doing the artist's way and writing your stream of consciousness in the morning, are you finding new things
that you want to add?
A lot of them are changing, but well, I should say some of them are changing. A lot of them are the same but they do evolve. When I first started doing it, I was in a point where I was just kind of in the throes of I struggle with OCD, and I have in the past. And it's not like I don't know if you're familiar, like how much you know about it, but it's really not the classic presentation. For me, it comes out as like these what if catastrophes of fearing for like my loved ones and my daughters especially. And like just this fear of, oh, I have to protect everyone in my life.
Yeah.
And so it was coming because I went through divorce within the last 2 years. There's just a lot of stress with it. And it was sort of like I was so busy being strong up until this summer that I didn't really grieve the life changes and all of the sort of big feelings that needed to wash through me. And so it came out of, the affirmations came basically out of a place of desperation of like, something needs to shift and I need to start seeing myself not as this anxious person, but as a peaceful person. Because anxiety or the worry, the what ifs, that clearly was serving a part of my younger self. It was a very protective part because parts work is like that's another thing I could talk about. But this very protective part of
Melissa Walker is obsessed with parts work.
Really?
She's a friend of ours that we've had on before, but yeah.
It's great. And actually RTT ends up doing a little bit of that too, because it does sort of look into these parts. But yeah, this protective part of self that developed this way of coping, that is the OCD or the anxiety that at the time helped her survive, right? Like it helped the younger me survive. But now it's no longer necessary. And now it's actually causing harm and upset. And a lot of, it just pulls me out of the present moment. And so I wanted to start envisioning myself free from that. And so a lot of my affirmations were around freedom and envisioning myself with this calm, peaceful mind. And never to diminish this. It's not like anything is a fix-all kind of thing. This is all hard work. And it's a process, right? But it's helped me. It gave me so much hope in a time where I was feeling like very hopeless with the anxiety of like, when is this cycle ever going to end? And also this feeling of like, I'm a psychologist. I should know better than that, like I can help other people. Why can't I help myself? So we kind of beat ourselves up too. And it's like, now I come from the perspective or more so it's like, there's a reason I've struggled with this. And I think it's to help navigate myself through it. And then hopefully to guide others and to just be like, I know what it's like in those dark places. Like, trust me, here's a light if you want to come out kind of thing. So
I'm really thankful that you clarified on like when you do this, because for me, again, my very strict brain says that like, okay, so the first thing you do when you open your eyes is that you got to do these affirmations. And obviously with kids, that's just not a thing that's going to happen. And so like the one time that like I wake up and I'm like, oh no, my whole day is ruined. My whole life is off today. What am I going to do? And it's like, just feels like a dumpster fire. So it was good to hear that like, okay, doesn't have to be like when you first open your eyes. It's just when you start your day, like pull away and like you just have to do them at some point.
And if it's 5 minutes and not 30, like whatever fits for you. I'm very much about that. I struggle. This is more my subconscious programming. My subconscious struggles to sit there and meditate for 30 minutes like every day. So I'm a 5-minute meditator, but you know what? I do it that 5 minutes every single day and I have for almost 2 years now. So that to me, I was sometimes our conscious mind wants it to be a certain way, but it's just like it's not working. And it can be so all or nothing. It's like, well, I'd rather have some habit there than no habit because I knew it does help and support me. So I always say like, kick the door open with whatever you can. It's kind of like the idea of, if you want to start working out, just go put your shoes on and go stand in the gym for 5 minutes and then go home. And then
I was literally about to say that because that's what my sister-in-law told me. And I was like, oh, right. So and when I've done that, it worked.
Yep, exactly. And then you're reprogram your subconscious in a more conscious way too. eventually, because that takes a
Mm.
habit, and then habits do rewrite over the subconscious, but it just takes longer. So
And you can still like feel like that little small dopamine rush for putting on your shoes. And it's like that
Yeah.
also is going to kind of keep like projecting you towards doing more and more, right?
yes, it's so true.
Even though
Yeah.
it's such a small thing.
But yeah, it's like a to-do list. You get that sort of that little high of dopamine from checking off the to-dos, even if it's small. Like I break
Yes.
down my to-do list into teeny little pieces because it rewards itself and reinforces itself that way. These are like little
Yeah.
it's like a
I-
mind hack.
Would love to learn that alone because I have this journal because my brain is so like hard and it can't flow. And so like I have this journal and it's basically like a habit tracker and like plan out your year that you want it to look like. What do you need to do this month? How are you going to do that weekly? What, like all these things. And I stare at it every day and don't write anything. So I'm like, how do I do this? Like, how do I know what's going to happen next month? Like, how can I plan?
Yeah.
It's like my brain just cannot be that organized, even though I want to so bad.
I hear you. And something is like, I've realized it's okay for something not to work for me that works really well for a lot of people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hear that with the planner too. I sometimes will use Mel Robbins. Do you know Mel Robbins?
No.
What is it? The 5-second rule. That's what it is. There's she has a book. She has a podcast too. But it's this idea of like the countdown. So you jump to action before you think too much, because the conscious mind will also talk you out of it. It's like there's a right way and a wrong way, right? And sometimes I'll do that to myself where I'm like, if I can't do it totally right, I'm just not going to do it. And it's like, what are we doing here? We're sabotaging ourselves. Like, so what if my to-do list is a mess and it doesn't make sense? But
I actually switched. That was my train of thought is, so I really love the idea of people journaling every day. We talked to a lucid dreamer and she's like, write down your dreams every day. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I realized every time I go to try to write something, whether it's writing down emotions of an event that happened or a dream or just whatever it is, like my brain will start writing and be like, that sentence isn't a correct sentence. Strike through that. How can you rephrase that sentence? And then you end up staring at that sentence for an hour. And I'm like, Jesus, I didn't accomplish anything. So then I downloaded this like audio tracker. And so now I can just verbally talk to my tracker like I'm talking to you. And there is no back and forth of, oh, that wasn't a complete sentence, because it doesn't matter. I'm not looking at it.
That's great. It's a way to get it out, without that doubt-filled filter that's just going to keep everything locked in there, and it just makes it like perpetuates itself then. So that's great.
Yeah, I have a question too. In line with Sam, how you're talking about, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in 3 months or 4 months. And then I was thinking how you talked about
Tomorrow.
RTT being, or tomorrow, right? RTT, you were saying is, and this was interesting to me, you have to go in with an intention.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you have to kind of also go in with, so I guess, what do you say for the person who is like, hey, I'm in therapy because my life is just really rough right now, but I don't know what's wrong. Like, I'm here because I want my marriage to work, but I don't know what's wrong with my marriage. I don't know what's wrong with myself. Like, what would you even start with for RTT?
For that kind of, because sometimes it can be that there are just multiple different issues going on, and each one is very worthy of its own series of sessions or session. But you want to start with like, what is the most bothersome thing to you? And if sometimes that can be a tricky thing. So it's like, how do you want to feel? If I could wave a magic wand, what do you want? What do you want right now? Is it to be happy? And, being happy all the time isn't necessarily, it's not realistic. And also then we lose like the dynamic aspect of life and that undulation. So you guide a little bit to help clarify their vision, but it's like, what does happy look like to you? Because happy is so vague, right? Does it look like you're following through on your habits? And so you kind of handhold a little bit to walk the client through to really find like, what is the presenting problem And what is it that you want to feel? And what do you like if you picture yourself? Or you could even ask, like, who do you admire? What is it about? So there are these different ways that we can draw out what it is that the client is really wanting to end up with as outcome. But yeah, sometimes it is that there's complex issues and you get this sort of laundry list of problems, but it's what's going to happen. You really want it to be one specific thing at a time, because when you regress, the mind is going you lose your control then when you're in the subconscious mind, because then the subconscious is picking which of those problems it's going to focus on. It'll focus on one, but you won't get to choose. So you want to keep the client in the driver's seat by allowing them to narrow that down and help them parse it out, if it makes sense.
You have to like have a few sessions sometimes with somebody before you can even start RTT, or you try not to, I don't know. I'm worried. Like, what if you had too many sessions and then you were, you felt like, okay, well, I don't want to lead the client. I want the client to lead it. So yeah, like, how do you decide when is the right time to start it after getting to know them a little? I guess I don't know.
No, that makes sense. There's a discovery call, and then there's a very specific intake process too. And so you can do the intake in the first session, but most people choose to do it separately. And so then you spend that time with them going through their childhood history, their conscious awareness of their childhood history, right? Not the regressed part. And their family dynamics, and how do they describe that presenting problem, and what do they want, and helping them clarify that vision for themselves, and really asking these questions that probe in this very curious way of paint the picture for me, paint it in vivid detail. What do you want? And then that gives you a framework to then go into a session with. And for more simple, presenting problems, and I don't even, the word problem, it's all guiding us somewhere, right? It's kind of all information in this way.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
But reframe our...
Totally. But it could be something as simple as nail biting, and that's usually a one session type of thing. But for more complex,
I pick my nails.
I hear you. I know I'm like, I'm gonna hire one of my RTT buddies to do that for me. But for more complex issues or longer standing things, or even physical ailments like Crohn's or autoimmune disorders, those can be more of a 3-session type process. But it's
oh my gosh, this doesn't even get into the... Oh, sorry, I just interrupted you because I just got excited. Yeah. I just realized, like, this wasn't... We haven't even delved into your work with, like, the body and health and veganism. And it's like, I can see how you're saying your body sometimes tells you that you're not okay. And sometimes that has to do with emotional stuff, too.
100%. The body keeps the score is sort of the idea with the subconscious mind.
Did I just hear you say that this RTT can address things like Crohn's?
So like physical ailments. That is something that typically when you're first starting, you're dealing more with the mental health side of it. Right. But there are absolutely practitioners, and you can get into that work too, where like there are people who specialize in the treatment of like autoimmune disorders, infertility. And because the subconscious is that brilliant. What you put in, it will carry out like a diligent little soldier. But if the programming no longer makes sense for where you are because it went in during childhood, then it's not working for you, right? And so you have to go in, you rewire and rework this, and then you set that rewiring in place with the repetition of those affirmations or statements of reprogramming. So, but yeah, there's something called command cell therapy. And so that's more for the physical type issues, and it's part of the RTT framework. But yeah, again, I'm not complete in the program, so I don't want to say too much, but it's really fascinating. And I would recommend, if you look up Marissa Peer, you can see and it's PEER. And you can see her talk about these things on her YouTube channel. And she's incredible. She's such a natural with it. And she's, very gifted therapist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. This just adds like a whole nother layer of things that I can't wrap my brain around. So this is great.
Oh, God. I'm sorry,
But,
or you're
well,
welcome. I don't know which one.
Both.
it's
No,
both.
you're
It's
welcome.
it's both. And Melissa, you'll find this hilarious. When Ashley was saying that, part of the intake process is like saying things like, "Oh, who do you admire? Who do you look up to?"
Yeah.
Guess who I was in my dream last night?
Kelly Palmatier. No.
Jennifer Lopez.
Oh,
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, I was literally her last night, and I woke up and I go, "Whoa, that was awesome!"
that's really cool.
Again, it's a calling to a stage for some reason
Yes.
for a talent that I don't know.
Exactly though. That's like that your higher self communicating,
But if Ashley is the fan and the fan is Ashley, then who's to say Jennifer is not you and you're not Jennifer?
Oh my God, stop it.
It's true. We're all connected.
Right?
Now you're getting wild.
That's awesome.
Oh man. I could go on for hours, and Ashley, I am going to message you after the episode, and I think I want to delve more into this with you on the side, and when you are
Okay.
allowed to do more RTT work, I think I want to switch into that. I'm really
That's
curious.
Yeah, I was gonna ask
about
you,
that.
like, when do you graduate? When can you start taking clients?
So my hope is that I'll be done by the end of June. So you can extend a little bit,
Nice.
but it's a 10-month program typically. So that's
Yeah.
my goal. So this summer, and I can certainly reach out and let you know when I'm
Yeah,
officially
keep us up.
certified and ready
Please.
to start working with clients. But yeah, I'm really excited. So I'll be doing some in person and then plenty remote too. So it's just as effective remotely as it is in person, which is
That's
great.
nice.
Sometimes even more so because you're in the comfort of your own home where you're more likely to relax, which
Yeah.
is important. So
Okay.
yeah.
Regardless, though, you have something for like everyone in the moment. Like right now, Melissa and I were even talking about your, you had shadow work as an offering, and we were
Oh my
like,
gosh, I want
whoa,
a
we
whole
also need
other
to look into
episode on
this.
that.
Oh, sorry. Did I miss a question?
No, we are just excited that you do shadow work.
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, shadow work is
Yeah.
it's a barrel of fun monkeys in its own way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we could
Regardless,
have you
we'll be
back and
reaching
talk
out.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be honored to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Is there a particular way you want to end today's episode with all of our listeners?
I don't think so. This is just really nice. Honestly, it's just that's been like sort of a theme too. It's just like it's so lovely to connect with like heartfelt and like-minded women. And that's been kind of a theme of my life in the last year. It's just like the community aspect. So I think it's so important. I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing or what you ladies are doing. And yeah,
Oh.
it's just nice to
Yeah,
chat.
thank you.
Yeah, you made me feel very comfortable. So thank you. Because I
Thank
was
you.
nervous.
You
Making us feel
So
comfortable.
are we. So we're always
I was
nervous, no
nervous.
matter what.
I was like, please don't think I'm just not put together like all the time. Like I'm trying.
No, I don't judge. Trust me. Usually it's like, I'm like, what, type of chocolate is on my shirt today from the girls or something.
Is it chocolate or is it poop?
Or blood. It's like the other day I was like, where did this come from? Who bled on me? But TMI, but that's like mom life, isn't it? It's like all a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, thank
Well,
you for
thank you
having
so much for
me.
being on with us. It was so wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Thank you. I've got so much to look into now. I'm gonna check out the rest of here and all the stuff. There's a lot.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'll have all of Ashley's stuff linked in our bio, and you guys check her out too, because there is so much to look into and learn from her. And also, if you're into vegan food, look at that cookbook. It's still out there, and it's rated pretty high.
It's true. Also, real quick, do you want to just plug your podcast?
Sure. Yeah, it's called The Soul Horizon. And you can find it, everywhere where podcasts are available. And yeah, I cover all different topics. I'm actually believe it's next week. It will be my 100th episode coming out. So
Whoop, whoop.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So there's plenty
Yeah.
to go, and on a variety of topics as well. So,
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
so exciting. Congratulations.
Yes, we are so thankful that you could join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Did you like the episode that you heard today? Great. Share it with a friend and don't forget to rate and review.